How's White doing?
I was hoping to have all drafts ready, but, they hadn't sent them to me yet.
No.
And so I'm gonna get approval.
So it's early voting. I voted today. Brian, you vote today? It's early voting.
Oh, yeah, I went this morning.
Freeman Library. Rod, you vote?
I vote on election.
Big sign.
You're a traditionalist.
And so I told the sign maker just to have a copy.
And if someone had to wait, that would be the only day.
To have a copy.
Did you get the
And you close, shut it down, and make that follow.
Holly's open?
Yes.
Okay.
Bill.
You Detroit? You Detroit? Okay.
It's probably about as good as it gets.
How are you? Okay. Bad days?
All right, I'll have to take a look.
Okay.
I saw Vic have a picture. You must have bought a bunch of those brackets.
Hey, how's it going?
He must have bought a bunch of them. But yeah, she said, when he said, oh yeah, I've got a slot left. It's like, yeah.
That, yeah, yeah.
I haven't seen you, but
Oh, that's okay.
I never had that now.
Yeah, on that email, Paul, I think there was.
Pretty good. So they can put the daggers at me and have you.
I think we're gonna talk about it.
it does serve a good purpose. A lot of people probably don't know.
I don't care so much about what's in the creek. Because they're easy to see.
So, what kind of fishing do you like?
You still kayaking? Oh, want to get down there?
I have it for me, I'm about fishing around here, I like deep water fishing.
Rotator cuff.
Yeah.
That seems to be a cause of sign up for it.
Huh?
And painful, I understand.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's a long recovery.
Contract it out to somebody.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'll just try to find the date, so you know.
I got my, mail carrier, Simon, you know Simon? He's on my side of town. I don't know if he does, I don't know if he
I
does
live on the
one.
west coast.
He had,
13 miles from
rotator cuff
Marina.
done, and he was out for a while, and then when he came back,
Plenty of fishing.
he had to take his post
Around
office,
here.
office duty and not be out carrying the bag.
March 3rd was the original one.
Beautiful set of islands, it's about 15 miles offshore.
You go in here.
National park system.
The final rendering.
It's really good.
What was on fire? Good.
It's good.
Well, you can't beat it for guys like us, you don't even, what do you have, a one stop sign to get there?
We don't got a big smoke one
Remember
there.
that one?
Yeah, March, okay.
So actually, March 29th was the first one. And then it was
Not
the
everybody,
final one.
not everybody can be in a situation like that, it's actually
You ever do
really
that?
good.
Tuna fishing? And that's work. The guys that do that tuna fishing, they think it's that right.
Yeah, it's,
They can really put it
looks
out
like
there.
it's gonna be sold in a restaurant, a little sit-down restaurant, will eventually come in. That's my understanding.
Ken, Jim, Paul, everybody good?
Yes.
So good.
So that original,
And they actually were interested in it, if you remember, we were going through COVID, so that's what scared them.
so the reply to that was the revised.
But that would have been, that really would have been ideal.
Pretty popular.
Which is this one.
Okay.
So that included all, and then the one thing Phil asked to confirm, so if you go up here, there was a note on here
think of the fine.
Yeah, he has to get confirmation on what the actual fine was.
So we're actually gonna find people.
At least the threat. At least the threat, right.
While Paul's doing that, we'll go ahead and get things started here. Alrighty, it is 4:02 PM on April 22nd, 2025. This is the regular meeting of the Maritime Safety Committee of the City of Nassau Bay, 1800 Space Park Drive, Suite 200, here in City Council Chambers. This is our call to order. Do the roll call. Jim Stowe. All right, Jason's here. Jeff's here. Paul Lopez is here. Chief George is here. Chief Cromie is traveling right now for a conference. And Audrey Hervey said he may be running upwards of about a half hour behind. So we'll tag him in when he gets here. All right, citizens' comments. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes or less. And state your name, address, and any takers. Good, Glenn. If you don't mind, just speak loud enough that the,
Order, Glenn.
you can stand wherever you're comfortable with.
Glenn Venables, 18222 Caprice Lane. I just want to follow up on a question I asked Paul a minute ago about the placement of the no wake signs in the cove area. And my concern, putting aside my objection to the whole no wake controversy, I'd much rather see that go away, but my concern is the number of signs, their placement, the readability. You know, how big are the signs? And this morning I looked on Google Earth, and given the size of that whole cove, you know, when you enter the cove from the northernmost point of the peninsula, the northernmost point of the peninsula, it's 150 yards across to Upper Bay Road, basically. You go about almost halfway down, there's a choke point where it's only 100 yards apart, or 100 yards wide, measured east-west. And then for the southern end, there is a wide point where it's like 350 yards. It's 1,000 yards from north to south, round numbers. So it's a sizable body of water. And if the thought is that whole area is going to be no wake, it's going to be a challenge in terms of signage. And I mean, that's basically my concern. So I don't know what the answer is, but you know, one or two signs, and with that lack of enforcement, you might as well not go to trouble. You know, because people are just going to ignore it. They'll see one or two signs when they come in, and then that's the end of it. So that's my concern.
All right, thank you, Glenn.
Everybody, Pete Soroka, 18226 Nassau Bay Drive. Ryan, you may answer this during your regular session, but since I don't know that, I'm going to ask the question. But I live on Nassau Bay Drive, so I'm on Cow Bayou, and I'm representing the four families, right? Jerry Roth, Debbie Byronley, and Pete and Pam Soroka, Lucky Kilmer, Frank and Patty Zamaron. So right now we have, when you come out of the marina, the Nassau Bay Marina, you take a right turn. You go about 100 yards, and it's right to my next door neighbor, Lucky Kilmer, and you have one no wake sign that's in a island that Paul's very familiar with, and it only faces one way. So the question, we've asked for more no wake signs to go all the way down, and you head north going to Nassau Road 1. So what I'd like to know today, if you have, I understand that you've completed your survey, you've done all the signs, and to see how many additional signs are going to be added, and if they're going to face both ways, north and south of the no wake. Thanks.
Thank you, Pete. Anybody else? Chris, Rob, anyone? Going once, going twice? All righty. Citizens' comments is closed at 4:07. Committee member comments. we'll go.
I have one.
We'll start with Jim.
Just for housekeeping, it'd really be helpful if you and your body, when you put the letter, put when the next meeting date is. I mean, I didn't see it today, so I ended up getting your 3, and I went down and looked at it. So if my request is, when you put the body together, say we're gonna meet next Tuesday at this time, but you put it in that first paragraph.
Keep
So
it
we
up
just,
closer to the
yeah,
top.
so we just know what it is. Because it's hard sometimes when you got 15 pages to look through.
And just real quick to your point there, what we're gonna be looking to do, if you notice the last regular agenda item on it is, I wanna, from now on, when we leave the meeting, I wanna at least have a pretty good idea, if not have a set time for the next one. That way we're not hunting each other down, trying to set it. Jason?
Nothing on mine.
Nothing to report. Jeff? No, this is just general committee member comments. Okay.
So do you want, are we gonna get into details of some of this a little bit later?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm gonna cover,
Okay.
some of that.
Okay.
Chief? Nothing from you? Paul?
No.
Okay. So I'm gonna kind of do a joint one on mine and on, Chief Cromie. Tim had, finally gotten some feedback, and information on some, requests that he had put in. So, Chief had sent out a request for information from Texas Parks and Wildlife on any incidents in the last couple of years, up on the creek. We actually have a couple of handouts for 2023 and 2024. In 2023, there was one incident in Clear Creek involving one vessel, no injury, no death, about 10,000 in damage. It did not specify where in the creek, but it did say the creek. 2024, there were 0 incidents on Clear Creek, and they had only recorded 6 total incidents in Galveston and Harris County. This is again through Texas Parks and Wildlife.
Make a comment on that?
Yes, Chief.
90, probably 95% of the time when we run calls out there, it's before us.
Okay, and that's, yeah, just to kind of give a little context to this is, again, this is only the information that Texas Parks and Wildlife has. This is not any sheriff's department, local PD or fire, Coast Guard. This is strictly just their contacts and if anyone reports anything additional to them.
So, I think the important thing for us to do is identify where Clear Creek starts and where it ends. That's the important thing to talk about.
The other thing is he had reached out to Coast Guard Waterways Management. So his email from Lieutenant Jack Brunswick, who's with Sector Houston Galveston. And then Tim Boriski, who's the Marine Information Specialist, Waterways Management Division with Private Aids Navigation. He's the program manager there. Both of them responded back. Any no wake zones, again, this is for our information a little later on, as well as anything that hadn't been requested through them. But no wake zone is established legally by the state. State has to establish safety reason for no wake zone. If state says no, we're not interested, then county would be the entity to establish. U.S. Coast Guard does not have any documented safety issues in Clear Creek to justify a no wake zone. This was in particular to the, when we were to our discussion, relevant to our discussion last time about on Clear Creek, Cal Bayou, over on where the kayak launch currently is. This was relevant to it just took them that long to get the information request back. Now, Coast Guard has a process to approve any signage enacted with a city ordinance. Any type of regulatory markings, aids to navigation, have to be approved by the Coast Guard. Anything in the water has to be approved by the Coast Guard. So buoys and signage in the cove also have to be approved by Coast Guard. Danger or dangerous curve language can be placed on land, but cannot use language regulating no wake or speed limits. Signs on pilings in the water. Pilings must be approved by the Corps of Engineers. U.S. Coast Guard will then approve the marking language or lighting. And just in additional to that, if you are refreshing an existing approved sign, so if you have a sign that already says no wake, and it's just old, decrepit, you can put a new, fresh sign up, you do not require approval for that. It's only if you want to change something saying no excessive weight to no wake or vice versa, things of that nature, then you have to get the approval through Coast Guard.
A little clarity there, so what you're saying is, if I'm not hearing anything, sorry. So what you're saying is, if there's an existing sign out there that's been out there for 10 years, replacement of that same language is okay?
As long as that sign has already been approved by Coast Guard.
So that's the question, has it been approved? That's the question.
That's gonna be the question on
Right.
some of this stuff.
Right,
But yes, but as long as it's already approved,
right.
then you can, I mean, you can put a fresh sign up every month as long as it's the same verbiage. You can make bigger, smaller,
Sure.
size you can change, but the verbiage has to remain the
So I
same.
guess what you're saying is signs that are out there that are 20 years old, have they been previously approved?
Yes.
Now, a lot of that should be pretty easy to look up. A lot of that should be on local charts, or in the Coast Pilot, for the area. So there are ways to look some of that up. But other things such as, if there's a noise ordinance sign, that's not gonna show up.
Sure.
There, but, Coast Guard may have a record of it, or we may have a documentation on our end. And so that's one of the things that we need to look into. And, when it comes to the no wake, ordinance that was established, last summer, we also have to make sure that any signs that have been posted are approved by Coast Guard.
So I know this was in context of the creek. Are we sure that extends to the code?
Yes, yeah, and they had even answered back with that regarding any signs in the code.
So
Where is that?
I'm sorry,
Because this says Clear Creek.
yes. Buoys and signage in the cove also has to be approved by US Coast Guard. In the second to last paragraph, about midway, pretty much right in the middle of that second to last paragraph. And so that's something that we'll need to, look at, and if we don't have the okays, then we'll need to get the okays through the proper channels.
I've never seen anything in the last 15 years, signs that, them signs probably been out there, how long, say,
Oh, yeah.
20, 30, 20
But
years?
you're gonna need to go back and find out if
Yeah.
they work.
Yeah.
And
I've
the ones
never
that-
seen nothing.
The ones that you put out there already have not been approved, so.
Has there been any new ones that are new verbiage or anything that's got, changed language or brand new signs in general that are not just replacing a direct replacement for an old one, we need to look into. And then we need to get the proper approvals, whether through the state or through Coast Guard, depending on.
Did you discuss this with Bill as well?
I have not, I just got this from Chief,
Okay.
so I gotta.
I mean, just because this is opposite to what he had thought as far as the zoning, right?
Yeah.
So I think we want to make sure.
Yeah, because it is zoned residential.
Yeah, we need to make sure we close the gap.
Yeah, and so one of the other things I also want to look into, and of course, it's too close to this meeting to be able to change anything in the agenda. But one of the things that we're gonna need to do is we're gonna need to do a deeper dive into our existing ordinances and see if there's a way that we can mark the procedure down as to, hey, this is how we get a change made, and it's not just going to the city to get the change made. It's gonna involve state or Coast Guard, or Army Corps if we wanna put a pilot in.
If that's.
And if there's a way to make a notation somewhere, that it's in the city code somewhere, that way this board changes out and 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the line, we forget. We're not going back to square one. At least there's a saying, hey, this is, if you wanna do X, this is what you have to do. And we'll take a look and see what we need to do with that. I'll get with the mayor, and I'll get with Dick Gregg and find out how we proceed with that.
Yeah.
So I would just make the comment that I think a lot of the buoys on the east side of the peninsula, between League City and Nassau Bay, were just thrown out there randomly. I mean, and a lot of people
Oh, yeah, and those may just be, some of them may be drug out there accidentally, you know, bad storm, you know, storm comes through, rips something from its mooring and just drags it. But those aren't necessarily our responsibility, other than, as long as it's, if it's in between the two districts, then it's,
But a lot of them are, from what I've seen, a lot of them are in the city, they're by the Nassau Bay Peninsula. They're not in the League City side, where the homes are. They're on our side.
okay, so they're marked, they're inside our,
Yeah.
what's considered our territorial
Yes.
waters?
That's what I've seen.
Okay,
Over the
it's
years.
something we'll need to look at, and those may already be approved, or, you know.
I know, that's a hard work to do.
Herb, since we're still in the committee member comments, anything you wanna jump in on real quick?
Nothing to add, thank you.
All right, so, this here, we'll get on to the subcommittee reports. This is the aids to navigation. So I guess kind of seeing where we stand with everything.
Yeah, I don't know, Paul, do you wanna?
Yeah.
Go over this? So this was the recommendation made, that covers the code, both location and, layout of signs. And we haven't extended this yet to Cal Bayou, Swan Lagoon, yeah. But, so this is the, recommendation for, the replacement of the existing sign. So it carries some of the same information that's on the current sign, as well as added, the note about disposal of sewage and trash, and, about on the top, calling it out that it's a residential area and property at City Nassau Bay. And so the idea is this would be placed both where the existing sign is coming into the canal, as well as, I think Glenn, you had mentioned that neck right coming to the cove. And so the idea is one of these is placed right there, for everybody that's entering the cove into that narrow area, should grab attention up there as well. So that was the idea of two of these.
And this would be going on existing pilings, correct?
The existing pilings for coming into
Into the cove,
well, no, there's not pilings there now. Existing pilings in the channel,
in the channel.
but not, where the cove would be land-based pilings,
Okay.
at the neck, but there's nothing there right now.
Okay. And this is still in draft form?
Yeah, well, I think that.
Yeah,
you said
it's
this-
still in draft,
Okay.
yeah, I'm actually having all 21 signs
Okay, because I caught it.
drafted.
I caught a small spelling mistake.
Yeah, and this is what it's currently.
So he said, though, you send your sign maker to get,
Yeah.
drafts.
Yeah, I wanted to get the draft approved by the committee report.
The dimensions,
4 by 8.
That's the current signs, also
That's
4 by 8?
current, yes.
Okay.
Hey, Paul, did he say that doesn't include Cal Bayou?
No, this is, there's only, for this, well, actually, everything you see here is not Cal Bayou, it's just the, right now, just Nassau Bay and the, cove.
This is north of the peninsula.
This is north of the peninsula, and then again, so if you'll scroll to the map, Paul?
Yeah.
See if it's big enough on here. Yeah, okay, so, we've got the markings there, they're kind of small here, but those are the markings for each of the existing pilings, and the one that's kind of, the one by itself, in between, that's where the current sign is, just a little bit down from there.
Straight down, number 5.
Yep, right there. So I
That's
can't-
the existing sign.
So that's the existing one, so that's where one of these would go. And then the other one, if you'll scroll to the, down to the cove. Yeah, so that number,
Actually, 15, is that what you're looking at? Or
not 15, the one right there at the neck.
16.
No.
Yeah, 16, 16.
That's 16.
16. So the idea is right there where that narrow neck is, we put another one of these signs right there, so that everybody entering the cove would see that as they enter. That was the idea behind that.
In the water or on the land?
On the land, right there on the tip.
Okay, so that's not gonna require
Yeah.
anything. Real quick, and it's gonna tie into one of our agenda items a little later on, since we're on this. One of the things that I think that we might wanna look at is, you know, as we look at how we're gonna get information up on the city website and all that. Maybe have a direct link to that page that voters can quickly look up. That way they can see all the ordinances, put the address and just get, I mean, it's not terribly expensive these days to get a website and forwarding it directly to, say, a city, specific city page. Something along the lines of maybe Boat Nassau Bay or something like that.
Yeah, the new app that we're working on does have an area for marine, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This would be separate of the, I mean, the app will hopefully pull the information that we're gonna put up,
Yeah.
but also just to have, for folks who don't have access to the app, just have like a website, something like I said, something along the lines of Boat Nassau Bay, put it on the bottom of the sign. Or NassauBayBoating.com or.
Oh, you're saying about this?
Yeah, on the bottom of
Okay.
this sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're saying create a new domain or URL with that?
Just a URL with a direct forward.
NassauBay.com/voting.
Or Nassau Bay or /voting, whatever. Something that's gonna be quick, easy, that they can,
That would be easier than getting
Okay.
URLs and all that.
okay. Yeah, as long as they can look at it, see it really quick as they're driving, as they're driving by and know, okay, hey, let me check out the rules real quick. Honey, open the phone up.
So yeah, that's that one. The rest of the things proposed, again, this is just the canal and coming into the Nassau Bay. So the idea is that we use one general no wake sign, so this is the no wake sign proposed. And that's gonna be a piling marked sign. So each one of these pilings, I think the idea is, I think what, the recommendation was front and back, on these set, and this set, and the middle set, which I think was 6 and 7. Was the idea they tried to, for both traffic going in and out of Nassau Bay, so those are all piling marked, no wake zone, no wake signs.
So we're looking at having 12 total signboards, 12 total placards for that little stretch right there.
Correct.
So you're talking about, I'm trying to get clarity, I haven't seen this information before, you're talking about all the way from the cove around to the peninsula, 12 signs or where?
So he's talking about just the entrance channel?
Going into the cove.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just the entrance channel,
Correct.
just as we kind of discussed at the last meeting.
Yep.
So I was just firming up that it was in fact 12 total placards for that stretch.
And then the same thing for the existing pilings, which are 13 here and 14. And 14, by the way, blew off in the last storm. The piling's still there, but it had a no wake sign on it that blew off. So the idea is those two get their no wake placards as well. And then also 18, which is the existing piling in Nassau Bay, which currently has the, I think, the rec sign on it, that we put a posting there. Those are all just utilizing existing pilings. And then these other three, which are 12, 15, and 17, would be proposed to be buoys. Because I think to your point, it's too wide to rely on signage alone. And buoys are, again, much more recognizable form of no wake zone. So the idea is that for traffic coming out of, because what I see right now is we do have postings on the pilings, not a lot, but there are there. And there's a better adherence to no wake in this channel today. And then what happens is they come out of the channel and they hook up, and it starts to feed the bay. So the idea is right out of the channel, right here, so in this larger view right here, we have a buoy. And then again, where it kind of comes together again, another buoy, and then a third buoy in the middle of the cove itself, to try to where, so there's no point where you're outside of the buoy and have a question of, is this still no wake, is this not no wake? That's the idea behind it. So that's what's proposed right now. So we have the map, kind of bill of materials there. Again, this would be the layout of the no wake sign. This is the, we saw the proposed layout of that sign, and then a lighted no wake buoy itself for those three buoys in the cove, or in the bay in the cove. Any questions on that?
The lighted buoys, Jason, do they just light up at nighttime or they?
Just at nighttime, yeah, it's got a photo cell on it. And there's two types out there. I think this is what you generally see, with just light on top. There are some now that it's lit internally, which is nice, but I don't know how well it would actually hold up. So this is kind of the more commercial version.
It's really not a bad idea, because there's a lot of people that vote at nighttime.
Yeah, and the buoys, at least one of the buoys on the other side of, over by the wharf, is lit up as well, and it definitely makes a
Is it
difference.
now?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
How about the pilots? Are they lit?
The pilings are lit with navigational markers, but not with any type of, they wouldn't show the signs.
Signs are just reflective.
Yeah, the signs are reflective.
And to put a light on if you wanted to put, you know, a flashing yellow or flashing amber on a piling, you'd have to get approval to do so.
Yeah, and I think,
You'd be changing.
Paul, I mean, I don't know, you could probably get this to where it's reflective as well.
Everything will be, all the signs are reflective, yeah.
I don't know. if we can
It's the
work time
engineering,
with sometime with.
yeah, it's all the engineering, reflective, I think, code 3 or something.
So that's the proposal that stands. As far as looking at Cal Bayou, we need to go see how many islands are back there, any right information. I mean, I think the recommendation would be, again, stick with consistent signs, just from a material handling perspective, and double side those on those islands going back to Cal Bayou as well.
You know, on Cal Bayou, if I remember correctly, was it Cal Bayou that had the busted no-wake buoy?
Several.
Well, it's not, I don't think it's Cal Bayou, it's the entrance from the creek.
Okay, so that's a confluence.
Yeah, so right on that curve, there's like 3 there, I think one of them
All busted up, and the insulations all come out. Gotcha. All right.
So that's the recommendation, so obviously, this would be impactful on that, right? Whether they need to be approved or not, so I think we need to really get a consistent on that, if that has to be the case, or if we're able to just put those in with residential zoning.
All right. Anything else on your Anton's report?
Nope, that's it.
All righty. Moving on to old business. Consideration and possible action to approve the meeting minutes of March 6th, 2025. So, if you have any changes or anything to the minutes we need to make, we can get with Maria and she'll clear that. Otherwise, I'll need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll motion to approve the minutes from the March 6th meeting.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Herb. All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, 5-0. Sign off on this real quick. Okay, and the subcommittee report kind of touched on this, but we'll just kind of get a final on this. But the member update and discussion on signs and aids to navigation regarding location, size, verbiage, purpose of signs along the territorial waters of Nassau Bay, update on status of rollout of replacements. So I think we pretty much covered we're still in the quote phase for getting the rollout of that.
How long does it typically take once you get a draft approved to actually get the sign done?
I've already got a approval from towboats. They'll give us a barge with a captain for a day, and then we can get all the signs out. There's 21 signs and 7 buoys so far, but I'm gonna have to go back over the place. The buoys, we've already ordered. So if we get them approved, we can put them out pretty quick.
So you're just ordering the raw material and the design developer took the information on the movie, right?
Yes, because the buoys are already ordered for no weight. Now, we can change that, we have to, in-house, but they should be here Monday.
Oh.
Monday. And that's on 7 of them. And then the sign, as soon as I get, the draft approved, it takes them maybe about a week to get out on signs.
Got it.
Also, I'd gotten a call from Omar Abatine, and so told him, I said, if the idea is good, he gets all the credit, if it's bad, he gets all the blame. As you're coming out of, you know, the creek into Cow Bayou, that confluence there, and you start coming around the park, could we he's suggesting that we put up a sign similar, may not necessarily have to have all the information of the sign that's going into the code, for the informational, just the big informational sign, but something that says, welcome to Nassau Bay, as you're coming through. You throw that
So
suggestion
on
out?
land, like the
Yeah, put it on land, you know, in the park, maybe around that first good corner or something.
Omar's home phone number on it?
Yes. But he had suggested that.
We just see if the same sign works, or if there's anything specific that we need to either add or omit to that sign.
Probably the residential portion of things might need to come off.
So I think it's a great idea to acknowledge people that they're in the city of Nassau Bay.
Yeah.
Land or water. I mean, it's a very good idea.
So his point is not to, you know, convey some rules specifically, but just simply to identify this Nassau Bay territory.
Yeah, identified as Nassau Bay territory, we can still probably put certain things, you know, ordinances enforced by Nassau Bay PD.
Yep.
You know, keep some of the information in there, of course, you know, no wake zones, not really relevant to that stretch. But we would want to keep it in the same general look and feel for consistency.
Yep.
And consistency and branding, essentially. But that's something that we can, I don't know if we need to look into that, or if a different department needs to look into that.
Yeah, I mean, we could look at, I mean, we could put a sign anywhere.
Yeah, just a couple maybe,
Choose that, yeah.
a couple piles in, on the bank line and all that.
So basically, it would be something similar.
Yeah. Similar to what's already, you know, similar to what's gonna be going in the code, but obviously with non-relevant
Nassau Bay
information.
right here. We already have a sign done. That he's talking about, Omar's talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about replacing that one. And so it was, instead of getting two, it'd be getting three, with this one having some variation of taking some.
But Omar's requesting this, which is almost identical to what we're talking about. Same thing.
Yeah, just
Exactly.
something that says, hey, hi, welcome to Nassau Bay. Alrighty, anything else? I don't think we need any motion on that, since we're looking into it, I don't believe we need a motion on that. So, on to member update and discussion of National Safe Boating Week regarding social media rollout for Safe Boating Week and status of proclamation request. I know Chief was kind of looking, was supposed to be digging through our old social media posts to see if they've got some videos about safe boating and whatnot. That way they're ready to roll it out for that week of May 16th. I've already forwarded on the proclamation from the National Safe Boating Council. Just have the mayor use their stock, their stock proclamation. Obviously put the Nassau Bay information in there. He's agreed to do that. So the May City Council meeting, they'll do that. Invited Coast Guard Auxiliary, who's the organization that has spearheaded National Safe Boating Week now for going on 50 years, almost 50 years. So the Seabrook Flotilla, which is the closest flotilla, will send a couple of representatives to receive a proclamation from the mayor for that. And then that'll close out Safe Boating Week. And then the last piece of old business that we've got will be the member update and discussion about data collection regarding collecting census data on traffic activity in the code. Now that the boating season's getting ready to start. We wanted to see kind of on the weekends at various times, you know, how many boats are in the cove. Well, we have a lot of swimmers in there, are they just hanging out? We're talking very small boats, jet skis, we're talking larger, you know, cabin cruisers. And what's coming in, who's enjoying our waters, things of that nature. I believe Chris is the offer for usage of your drone.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. And I know you like.
You just have to
flying.
let me know because I just need to make sure that I'm off.
Okay.
So on the same subject, so I think I heard Chief saying that, he said this, pre-COVID, we had like 150 boats in there at one time, and after COVID, it was like 80 boats or 90 boats. During COVID, there was a lot more boats in there.
Yeah, well, during COVID, a lot of people had a lot more
Oh, yeah.
time. But, so I guess how do we want to go about, I mean, obviously, we got to coordinate with Chris for usage of his drone for certain times. And then I guess we can just kind of create a schedule, see who can just poke their head out real quick. Even if you're just grabbing a quick picture and then, you know, do the count later.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, you're thinking static of saying, you know, here's a picture and do a count versus like traffic over time.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we do it, at, you know, say maybe noon or, you know, noon and 4 or 5 o'clock, something like that, noon, 1600, 1700. You get a couple of data points. You're gonna have movement obviously in those few hours, but,
Yep.
you know, this will kind of give you a pretty rough idea of who's coming out, you know, what's coming out.
So the purpose of doing that is what?
So that way we have data, and then we can say, okay, well, what activities are being enjoyed in the waterways? Are people really pushing the boundaries of, say, the no rafting zone? You know, are people anchoring, you know, mere feet from homeowners' property, or, you know, certain things that can kind of help drive us to, you know, help people enjoy the waterways and make them safe at the same time.
So I think this would also help facilitate law enforcement being out there at a certain time, right?
Yeah, and that way, you know, if we know that 11 o'clock in the morning it's relatively quiet, there's no sense in the boat going out there. But if we know that at 1600 it's a madhouse, that might justify the boat, or the chief reaching out to law enforcement partners such as Coast Guard, you know, to say, hey, guys, mind making a jump if you're free.
2 to 6. As somebody that facilitates with our police department, AKA, I drive the boat. I don't write tickets. 2 to 6 is your peak time.
Yeah.
You'll get the ones that show up at 11, but there's usually around 10. It'll peak up around 40, 45. Holiday weekends, put 20, 25% more. But by 4:30, 5 o'clock,
Everyone's going home for dinner and
the kids are tired, kids are leaving, they've been in the sun all day. So 5:30, 6 o'clock, that's where your campers are staying, and there's people overnight out there.
Yeah.
and there's nothing against that.
Now,
It's kind of fun.
I'll reach out to, El Largo, Seabrook, Chief reached out to Texas City, League City, and I think, I reached out to Taylor Lake, and all the surrounding cities are having the same problems. El Largo has one, operator, but no boat. Seabrook, they have one boat, and I think one operator, and so, they said they're all having the same issues as
Yeah.
we are, so.
We're not unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the only thing is on the sampling, we wanna just be consistent, like if it's gonna be Saturday at noon or whatever, I'd just try to do that the same week every weekend, if we can get some.
Yeah. We can get, even if it's just one day a week, ideally we grab Saturday and Sunday, and then on, say, a holiday like Memorial Day, grab that day as well, ideally.
So all of the details and how this works, so, yeah, there's a boat operator right there, so I have a law enforcement officer there. How does that happen? Is there a schedule for that to happen? I don't know, Chief, is there?
We've always just done 2 to 6, 4 hours Saturday, 4 hours on Sunday.
4 hours? Okay. So there already is a schedule in place. Is that what you're saying?
Hmm?
There's already a schedule in place?
Yeah, that's what we've been doing for, how many years? We've been doing it for
And
4 or
that's,
5 years.
and that's physical underway time? That's,
Yes, Voters out on the water for 4 hours.
And y'all never do it without a police officer?
We don't, we respond to calls without
Yeah.
police officers, but we don't patrol without
Yeah.
police officers.
so I'll coordinate with Chris, because obviously the easiest way is for him to just throw his drone up real fast, take a couple of pictures of the overall area, and then email them in. That's the easiest, quickest way. Otherwise, when he's not available, someone will need to go down to Sea Cove or something like that, take a picture, take a couple of pictures, send them in, and then I can, one of us, I can do it, I don't have too much going on, I can just quickly hand count them. It'd be relatively accurate. So, all right, so that's good there. On to new business then. Okay, so consideration and possible action regarding cordgrass. So this is discussion on importance and history of cordgrass along the shoreline and how to inform the public of the importance. Jeff, I'm gonna let you kind of take the lead on this. Okay.
Well, may not be a long discussion on my part. I ran into Mayor Mark Inman recently, and he, from Jim and Paul may know this, but he reminded me, or asked me if I could just bring the subject up to the committee for review and consideration. Apparently, years and years ago, I don't know how long ago, but cordgrass was planted to prevent erosion. Erosion control looks like Chief Tom knows this. And it also helps with the fishery, it's an estuary, it's a good thing. And we have most of them, I think, for other fish. So it's been out there for years and years, but his concern, I think, is maybe kind of to be proactive. If there's any way that maybe this committee could support communication to voters, to be careful with cordgrass, not to make, for example, landfall on the grass. I don't think that's a huge problem. I don't think it's been reported as a problem, but he said it's happened. He's observed it before. Of course, you've seen it too, Jim. There's the airboat incident that, was back in that area and they had damaged cordgrass. So I don't know, he didn't have a particular request, but adding in as signage, part of our signage, could be. He really wanted, I think, just to bring the subject up for review and consideration by this committee.
I can reach out to Galveston Bay Foundation, I work with them.
Sure.
And just have them do an assessment of the area, and maybe it's time for some new cordgrass.
Yeah.
But I can reach out. I've done it before.
Yeah, they're still coming out and doing, water samples, still, aren't they?
Yes.
I don't know if y'all know, but the Galveston Bay Foundation comes out, they got like 150 places where they do water monitoring on a regular basis. So they do one at Sea Cove, and they do one at the, Cow Bio, but they do it all over from here to the Galveston Bay watershed. It's a great volunteer project, somebody might not be qualified to do that, so they're always looking for volunteers. That's all they do.
Now, Jim, do you know if that, Paul, if that grass was planted by the Galveston Bay
It was,
Foundation?
it was.
Was it?
Yeah. They actually started, I think the first year like 2010, and then they did it maybe every few years. They had volunteers to come out.
I know much of Nassau Bay residents
Yes.
participated in
Volunteered,
that, volunteered to help get that all installed. So yeah, I mean, I don't think we need signage or anything, it's not a problem, we need, keep off the grass type signage, but definitely we can, for our website and in the new community engagement app, we can definitely make sure that it gets, prominent positioning, say, hey, just don't push in on the bank, there's cordgrass. Here, we can work on the verbiage and all that, but the intent, you can get the word out that way.
Good communications.
The only time I ever see people doing that is if they lose power on their boat and they end up on the east side of the peninsula. Other than that, they don't do it unless they lose power.
Too shallow.
Huh?
Yes, too shallow.
Well, yeah.
Most of the time, yeah, you're gonna run out of water before you get up to it, but, extreme high tides, good southern wind, push that water in give you the little extra room you need. All right? All right, this one's gonna be a little bit more involved. So consideration of possible action regarding communications. Discussion regarding the committee's webpage information to display and working with community engagement committee on a section for the voting information on the new Nassau Bay app. Which is, Paul, you already said that they've got a spot for us.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so when it launches, it will basically be kind of like this, and on the menu side, it'll say Bowdoin, click Bowdoin, and then it will come to,
It's just gonna go to the voting page on the city website, pretty much.
yes, yes, yeah,
Okay,
there
so
you go.
we'll-
It'll take you to the Bowdoin, easy access to Bowdoin facilities. And then, so whatever we put on the website, this will take. Yeah.
It'll just feed that direct, so it's not gonna be like its own separate, whole thing inside the app. It's really just drawing
Yeah, so we want to.
line from line from the city website.
Yeah, so whatever we want to put on the website, this will automatically have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
User-friendly too.
Yes, very.
Okay, and this is an actual physical app in an app store that we'll be able to download?
Yes, yes, so once we kick it out, it's the test flight app, and we'll push it out, social media, website, we'll probably have it in coffees, and then we're gonna have a workshop for residents, and then we will, the guy that's doing it and staff will help residents. You download it, and then you'll just have this website, and then we'll just kind of walk through it, and then do it, also a YouTube link on our Facebook website and everything, and kind of how to work.
Okay.
It's an all-in-one website.
Okay. So then the big thing's gonna be is what information do we want on our website? It's gonna duplicate and present however we present it on the website, it's gonna present it in the app, so what information do we want on there? I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah, but I think you start with the rules, right? I think that's, definitely want that on there. And we can put any warnings on there as well, like for instance, you put some type of notice about the curve around Clear Creek, just to bring awareness from.
Tides, currents, I think having that information on there's probably gonna be pretty important.
And we do have a weather page. Yeah. In fact, it's right above the Bowdoin, and it takes you to Nassau Bay.
And that's just regular weather, or does that have a link to marine weather in there as well? Because if not, then we can always just include a link to the local Galveston.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, marine weather, which,
Yeah, I don't think I've seen marine one.
I mean, we,
Just look outside and see what the sky is saying.
cordgrass notice.
Yeah, we could. I mean, that could be, that probably is something we include around the rules.
Around the rules.
Yeah.
So I think with the rules, maybe put the rules in kind of the plain English with the potential fines, and then have the link to the actual city ordinances if somebody wants to go in a little deeper.
Yeah.
So maybe the links to vessel safety checks, the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and how they can get a free, get the free vessel safety check.
Was that Jack Brunswick with the Coast Guard Auxiliary, you know?
No, that's Jack's with, he's a full lieutenant.
Okay.
He's- warnings, safety reminders for,
Big fans. Sure.
so once we know the date of, say,
Your
the
family,
firework, you know, the
fireworks.
Christmas fireworks stuff,
Yeah.
Fourth of July, obviously we know the Fourth of July date. You know, if you guys do the kayak, if you decide your course this year is gonna be out on the water, out on the creek or something like that, versus inside Lake Nassau, that would be a good, you know, you can put up,
Any warnings about alligators and snakes?
might as well just include that in the general warnings.
And I guess that's another good question. Should I order, we have to get them approved, the alligator tag, signs underneath the, unless we want them on all the signs.
I don't think you want all the signs. That'd be way too much.
Kind of become too much visual noise.
Just have it as standalone?
Is there any alligator signs out there right now?
I think there is. I think there's.
There was one by the
Yeah,
rec,
yeah.
on the rec pond, isn't there?
Yeah, I believe there.
Let's say, I don't have the,
Have we ever had?
because it's closed.
That's one of the many.
Yeah. No, that-
Bring in on the water.
We've never had to have like an alligator relocator.
Yeah. we-
Yes,
Oh,
yeah, oh, yeah.
In Nassau Bay?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Cobb Island.
about every 2 to 3 years, they come in, they do a count. The last was about 3 years ago, and I think there were 16 or 17 in the Cove. And they relocated.
In the Cove?
Uh-huh.
Really?
We better put more signs in.
But we also found some residents were feeding them,
Yes.
at the end, Leeward, and then up past Seafoam.
And same thing on Cobb Island. They were feeding.
When we have a lot of rain, when a lot of brackish water, we will, we've had up to 21 alligator counts.
I mean, I've seen them back on the street, but I didn't know that, and I mean, I've seen them in, not the Cove, but the Bay Area once, but I didn't know there was 16 back there.
One time I was taking the Galveston Bay Foundation people out of Galveston Bay, for a live TV show, and I was parked at Sam's boat, 6:30 in the morning, and a gator came up right behind us.
There's one posted on the water, based on what was out there. I think there's a lot of them posted on the land.
Okay.
Yeah. And we see them at Leeward all the time.
Nice little.
Well, fresh water will bring them in.
Yeah, Brian, if I can add too, there's sometimes, I live on the water, and there's sometimes you don't feed them. But if I have my crab traps out, you've got chicken or cut mullet in there, that's kind of like feeding them. And a couple of years ago, I pulled in one of my traps, it looked like it got hit by an 18-wheeler, it was crushed in, the alligator was chewing through the trap. It was like Jaws.
Just admitted, Pete, you adopted the gator.
Exactly. You like gator tail, Brian?
It is good, it goes pretty good with, Ramadan.
Well, that gets to be the problem where the gators get to be so friendly, so we saw that at the Nassau Bay Marina Yacht Club. When they got to be too friendly. And that's how the Coast Guard would get between the Parks and Wildlife and Deer Drive.
I think that's a good start. I mean, you know, we definitely have the ability to add to it some living, breathing documents,
Yeah.
so.
It doesn't seem like, since it's pulling straight from the website, literally, it is the website.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, maybe a little further down the line, once we kind of figure out how to incorporate certain things, we can maybe at some point put up a map of, you know, of the city, and then have individual markers for each, where we have each sign and everything, and you can just mouse over or put your finger on it, and it'll pull up, say, this is this sign says no wake, or this sign says, you know, marker number 6, or whatever. That way you can kind of have a little semi-interactive, know what you're looking at.
Yeah, I think the good part about having, this electronic presence is that, whenever we have things like the grass, what's called sorry, or anything else, that's something that's low hanging fruit, we can just pop it right on there. And hopefully, I know we're gonna be talking about how do we get people to look at it, not just the content, of course, but how do they know that we're there, right? So that's also important, but that's the one thing I do like about having this website, is that we can take temporary action, intermittent action until there's some, at least communication wise, until there's some permanent resolution, or if it's just a very informal, oh, by the way, this is what's happening. So just being able to get the word out to residents and whatnot, I'm looking forward to, all the extra stuff we're gonna be adding to it, you know. I think it's, yeah, I think it's gonna be a good thing.
Now, here's the question. Who do we have to go to get the website?
Sherry,
Jerry? Perfect. Yeah, I think once the community app comes out, you know, outside of any special events, in terms of regular access, I think voting is probably gonna be one of the things that people access on a more regular basis. Is the app gonna be able to track where people are pulling information from?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of, I'm the guy, I love metrics, so
Yeah.
seeing, you know, click-throughs and stuff. It'd be very interesting to see, you know, how are we helping, you know, just by being there, are we helping drive people to the app? And is the app also helping drive people to us? You know, outside of certain things, like I said, special events. That type of stuff. Let's see.
When is the voting begin?
So, Safe Voting Week
Yeah.
is May
Yeah.
16th to the 23rd,
And-
17th to 23rd?
And I think one of the first meetings, there's like some leftover swag, safety swag, some food, was it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And roughly about how many of those do we have?
probably about 300.
Okay.
400.
All right, splendid.
So the plan is during that meeting, to distribute,
Yeah.
you know, on the May 10th council meeting, to distribute to everyone in attendance, and get those little koozies and whatever relevant safe voting swag that we've got.
Yeah.
I think that'll be good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about Navy, you know, stands for never again volunteer yourself. But I don't mind, like posting up at a marina or something, you know, or one of our partners, when we decide, and just passing out over there. I don't have a problem with
Yeah,
that.
so
Like
again-
before any of the boats get underway.
So the local Coast Guard Auxiliary does a lot of vessel safety checks. Flotilla out of Seabrook is the closest one.
Yeah.
So,
Right behind the
six-
school. Right behind the-
They meet at the firehouse right there.
I just let me know, I'm sure. Some swag and I'll be Christmas. Yeah.
So again, I don't think we necessarily need to take any action on that, on this agenda item. In terms of votes, so, on to the
Meeting.
last. Consideration and possible action date for next meeting. Let's see what we look at for end of May into June.
So it seems to me you're kind of driving it because you're scheduled.
Well, I try to, but again,
I know.
if it works better for me to miss one, Herb is more than capable of handling it, provided we've got a quorum, which means we can only lose one other person at that point. But yeah, so, you know, I live life in 6-week cycles, 4 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 4 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Have half the time I don't know what month it is.
I'll bet. I'll bet. So end of May, we're gonna have Memorial Day weekend.
Correct, so just for reference, again, just doesn't, you know, if the best time works with me not here, that's fine. I get off the boat on the 29th, that last Thursday. And generally, my boat stays in the Houston area, so the latest I'm on the boat is noon or 1 o'clock that day, at the absolute worst. Usually I'm out there by about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning.
What do you have for crew on your boat? How many people?
Full staff is 7 people on board. Typically, we don't go below 5. 2 wheelhouse, 2 tankermen, and then one deck, usually at least 1 deckhand, sometimes 2 deckhands, and then the 7th person, if we have a 7th on board, is usually a wheelhouse trainee. So that way I can mold fragile minds.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't have to be here, I'm gone the first week of June.
Okay? And I go back the 12th, so you wanna look at maybe the 9th, 10th, or 11th? Well, the 9th is gonna be a council meeting, so that's off the board. 10th or 11th? Or do we wanna try to target the 29th?
I was gonna.
Right when I get back?
If the 29th or 30th is.
That way we've got fresh information from Memorial Day weekend, it's fresh in our minds.
Then it proceeds.
And it precedes the council meeting, that way we can give an update on that one as well. And I'll be there to give that update.
Yeah,
I want someone to step in.
I think I'm okay.
29th or 30th.
29.
Yeah.
Evening, what time do you get off the boat?
So,
Or the day before?
no, I get off that morning.
That morning, okay.
29th, so 29th, we want to target 4 o'clock again, is 4 o'clock still work for everybody?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, 4 o'clock's good?
right, so that we will need a motion for, to set the date.
Okay, what again, what day?
So,
29.
so I need a motion to entertain a motion for
May 29th.
Thursday, May 29th at 4 PM, right here.
I'll move that.
Okay, we got a first by Jim, second by Jason, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? 5-0. All right, and with that, it is 17:05. This meeting is adjourned.
1 hour and 4 minutes, way to go. Can I talk for a second?
Oh.
So the Texas Park and Wildlife is not the one who get the motor accident information from, who is?
Man, you took a beat. It went from, yeah, I think we were.
Last week.
There's no one that aggregates.
Like I said, I got some.